And we have 3,000 hardworking Stellantis employees who have dedicated their lives to Stellantis, highly trained, and this stings. So this is the consequence of these Trump tariffs, this attack on the Canadian economy.
Unfortunately, President Trump doesn't want to go down that avenue. He wants to hurt the American people, and that's exactly what he's doing.
And that's where the story takes a sharp turn. Because what was sold as a patriotic success, bringing jobs home, is now colliding with economic reality. The very tariffs designed to protect American workers are quietly driving up the cost of living for the same people they were meant to help. Industry analysts estimate that Trump's new tariffs could push the average price of an American-made car up by as much as $10,000. Dealers are already warning of canceled pre-orders, while manufacturers face a brutal math problem: higher costs, fewer buyers, and shrinking margins. In Michigan and Indiana, Stellantis has already temporarily laid off around 900 workers, citing production delays and supply shortages. Plants in Toluca, Mexico, and Windsor, Canada, have gone dark for weeks at a time, creating bottlenecks that ripple through the entire North American auto chain. UBS analysts say it plainly: rising costs and fractured supply lines could crush domestic demand, turning protection into self-inflicted damage. If you've made it this far, you probably care. Consider subscribing to stay updated. While Belvedere was wrestling with chaos, something very different was unfolding north of the border. Canada didn't answer corporate relocation with outrage or retaliation. It answered with structure, law, and quiet precision. As layoffs spread across the U.S. auto belt, Ottawa acted quickly to remind Stellantis of the commitments that came with its government-backed incentives. Industry Minister Melanie Joly described the company's move as unacceptable, hinting that legal remedies could follow if contractual job guarantees were breached. Her tone wasn't confrontational. It was measured, designed to make one point clear: public investment carries public accountability. After all, Stellantis had benefited from roughly $14.6 billion in federal and provincial support, funding that explicitly required production and employment to remain within Canada. When early signs of relocation appeared, both Ottawa and Queen's Park demanded full disclosure. The House of Commons Industry Committee opened a formal inquiry, calling for the unredacted contract to be made public so legislators could verify whether the job protection clauses were still being upheld. Behind the scenes, officials framed the issue as more than a corporate dispute. It was about defending the integrity of Canada's industrial policy, proving that taxpayer-backed agreements have real teeth. For the federal government, Brampton wasn't just another factory. It was a symbol of how modern economic governance could balance openness with sovereignty, using the rule of law, not politics, as its shield. But here's where Canada's approach truly stands apart. When one assembly line left, Ottawa didn't panic. It pivoted. Rather than treating the move as a loss, policymakers treated it as a test. Could Canada replace disruption with transformation? The answer, as it turns out, was yes. Instead of losing jobs, the country decided to change what those jobs build. It wasn't about revenge or retaliation, it was about renewal. Within months, Stellantis and LG Energy Solution doubled down on their joint venture, Nextstar Energy, a $5 billion electric vehicle battery plant in Windsor designed to produce 45 GWh per year, enough to power hundreds of thousands of vehicles annually. The project promised roughly 2,500 new jobs and a supply chain ecosystem reaching deep into Ontario's manufacturing belt, from chemical processors to software engineers. It wasn't merely a replacement project, it was the anchor of Canada's next industrial chapter, the foundation of a full EV value chain stretching from critical minerals to finished vehicles. At the same time, the government quietly laid the groundwork for Brampton's rebound. A new vehicle program was signaled for the plant, while Windsor added a third production shift to absorb displaced workers and stabilize income across the region. Ottawa's policy response went further. Incentives were restructured to mirror the U.S. Inflation Reduction Act, ensuring that companies operating in Canada could enjoy equivalent long-term tax benefits without being pressured to relocate south of the border. Behind the numbers was a deeper strategy: to turn policy alignment into competitive advantage. By offering predictability, Canada reduced the risk premium that often drives investors elsewhere. The outcome was clear: employment stayed steady, technology advanced, and production capacity transitioned toward the future. In this new equation, Brampton didn't lose, it evolved. And the real casualty of that evolution wasn't north of the border at all, it was Belvedere. If the early stages of this crisis revealed Canada's restraint, the next phase showcased something far rarer: unity. As multinational corporations began retreating under tariff pressure, Ottawa, Ontario, and Unifor, the country's largest auto union, did something that's become increasingly uncommon in global politics. They moved in lockstep. For the first time in decades, Canada turned solidarity itself into an instrument of economic power. Ontario took the first step by freezing all public funding linked to the Brampton facility until Stellantis presented a clear, verifiable production plan. The province made it clear that taxpayer dollars would not subsidize uncertainty. At the same time, Unifor labeled the company's relocation a serious violation of the 2023 collective bargaining agreement and called for federal authorities to review, and if necessary suspend, Stellantis' import benefits until job protections were reaffirmed. Behind closed doors, coordination between Ottawa, Queen's Park, and Unifor intensified. Meetings were held weekly under what insiders dubbed the Team Canada approach, an informal alliance designed to ensure that no single jurisdiction faced corporate pressure alone. The principle was simple but powerful. If a global manufacturer chose to leave, it would have to leave behind value, not a void. In a world of fragmented supply chains and rising nationalism, Canada's response sent a quiet but unmistakable signal. Unity isn't just symbolic, it's economic leverage. While the U.S. plan unraveled under its own costs and tariffs, Canada quietly turned stability into strategy. No loud announcements, no headlines claiming victory, just consistent policy and predictable execution. In Brampton, production never stopped. In Windsor, expansion continued. And in Ottawa, the government announced another $1.2 billion in supplemental investment for the battery sector, a vote of confidence in Canada's industrial future. Each of these moves reinforced one simple truth: stability, not slogans, attracts capital. Meanwhile, Belvedere is feeling the pressure. Higher labor and energy expenses have pushed unit production costs well beyond 2024 forecasts, forcing Stellantis to reconsider its volume targets for the U.S. market. Analysts across North America are already warning that Trump's tariffs may have backfired, with fragmented supply chains and declining efficiency hitting American firms hardest. In contrast, Canada's industrial base is consolidating around EVs, batteries, and clean manufacturing, building what many now call the North American EV core. And the most striking part? It wasn't achieved through confrontation, but through consistency, by enforcing contracts, not rhetoric. From the Jeep Compass to Next Star Energy, the lesson goes far beyond North America. In a world obsessed with tariffs and trade walls, the loudest nation isn't always the strongest. The most stable one is. So here's the question. In an era defined by economic walls and political storms, could the world's next real superpower be the one that simply stays steady? If this video gave you something to think about, like and subscribe to support more content like this. Thank you.